that yet, but I'm just giving y'all a heads up. So today's call, I think, is going to bring a lot of breakthroughs, and it's going to require some participation. I wrote in the chat and on just the headliner, have a conversation or a piece of content ready to share. Drop a 5 if you have something to share, whether it's a conversation that you had with somebody or a piece of content that you put out recently that you're working on. Type of 5 if you have something to share. So the topic, awesome. Okay, appreciate you guys. So I want to create this regular opportunity for you to actually take a conversation that you're having, and we can literally go through it on a call. I'm a part of a group with Bob's thing, and we do that every week. And it has been so powerful to be able to just, hey, here's the conversation, here's kind of the dialogue, and get direct feedback on and just reviewing it. So we don't have to we're not going to go through everyone's conversations, because as we do this, I think you guys are going to be like, oh man, I actually want to bring my conversations to the table. I actually want to bring my content, because I'm telling you, on these calls that I've been on, everybody has a conversation. Everybody brings something, and sometimes it's multiple. This past week I had 3 conversations in my arsenal ready to just share in case we had I had the opportunity to, but only 2 people literally got to share because of time, and things like that. So start getting in the habit, and this is going to help us also with our execution. I can't come empty handed, and don't think oh, I'm on this call but not everybody's going to share, I'm off the hook. Come with the intention of I want some help, because maybe if we don't go over it on the call, we can still talk about it in the chat together throughout the week. Okay, so the topic today: selling in your conversations. Understanding what this is what I want you guys to leave this call with, is understanding what it means to sell. I want you guys to have clarity on what it means to sell. Okay, just for the sake of participation and engagement, when you hear the word sales, okay, or selling, what word or feeling comes to mind? Drop it in the chat. When you hear the word sales or selling, what word or feeling comes to mind immediately? No right or wrong. Just want to get an idea of where you guys are at. Okay, Alex, influence. Mason, I feel negative about it. More of summer salespeople. Summer salespeople, like the door to door. That's what you're referring to. Rin says, I run away. Okay. Some good, some not so good. Perfect. So regardless of what you think of right now or how you feel, the goal leaving this call is for you to attach, I should say, connect a new identity to what it means to sell. And that doesn't mean that there are people out there that don't do this. There are tons of people that when I go through this right now, they're going to do the complete opposite. And those people do make you want to run away from sales. Those people do make you want to cringe and just look at the profession of selling as just a negative, from a negative lens, and why so many people do. But selling does not have to look in a negative manner. It doesn't need to be that way. I want you to write this down. Selling, okay? All selling is, because what we do is we are transformational leaders. We don't do things that I'm not trying to sell ice to an Eskimo. They don't need ice, right? Selling is understanding the other person. That's what I want you to write down. Selling is all it is understanding the other person. You understand their problem. You understand what they value, what's important to them. All selling is understanding the other person. So when you think about it from that lens, I hope that negative connotation or those feelings that you have in a negative way starts to diminish just a little bit right now, because you know that it's not coming from a place of force or pressure or just ick, right? It's I'm trying to better understand you. I'm trying to better understand what are the challenges that you're experiencing and facing in your life. What do you actually value? What is actually important to you? It's being more interested than interesting. And a lot of times in sales conversations, it's the reverse. People know from that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that he says be more interested than interesting. But the total opposite happens when we have conversations with people, when we're on calls, when we're doing presentations. We are trying to be more interesting. We are trying to sound smart for the prospect or the person that we're talking to, but it's like it's not even about that. It's I need to understand who this person is and where they're coming from to see if I even have an opportunity. Is there even a door open for me to help this person? Okay. Type a one in the chat if this is starting to make a little bit more sense, just a little bit. You start to feel a little bit better of this approach. And this is not my words, by the way. This is Bob. He is the one that is telling me all of this. I'm just taking a ton of notes and applying and giving it to you guys. Okay. So, a transformational conversation, okay, is basically you leading the conversation. Transformational conversations are you, like, it's basically you leading the conversation. Leading. I'm leading the conversation. And you lead a conversation by asking purposeful questions. You lead a conversation by asking purposeful questions. Okay. And the number one thing that I got from all of our conversation check-ins this past week is I don't know where to take the conversation. I don't know the right questions to ask. I don't know where to even go. Okay, we're going to get some clarity on this. And I'm going to ask, for those of you that said that you do have a conversation, thank you. If we could maybe go over those in a little bit. If you do not have a conversation this week, make sure you have a conversation next week. And it could literally be anything. The only way that you have a conversation to share is if you've been having conversations, right? So a purposeful question, write this down. A purposeful question is a question that is tied to a problem that we can help somebody solve. A purposeful question is a question that is tied to a problem that we can help somebody solve. Okay. And this right here that I just shared with you, you leading the conversation, you asking purposeful questions, questions that are tied to a problem that you can help somebody solve. Understanding the other person. What is their issues? What are they going through? What are they thinking about when they wake up in the morning? When they go to, snooze their alarm again or not? When they have to get in their car and drive to work? What is that person thinking about? What's going through their mind? What's in their heart? What are the feelings that they have? You should know this like the back of your hand, because that is you. That was you at one point. Maybe that's you right now. Maybe that was you at one point. I don't know. But it was you at some point in this process. You can get so clear and confident in your conversations of selling because the person that you're talking to that you can help solve a problem is literally you. Put a mirror up to yourself. That is the person that you are talking to in your conversation. Whether it was the person that you were, before you got started, or maybe it's a little mix of the things that you are going through right now. You can have confidence going into a conversation because you know the problem. You know the problem that they're probably experiencing. What you're doing is you're asking those purposeful questions that's tied to that problem because you know that you can help them solve it. You know the solution. You know the experience that you can take them through, being a part of our community, being a part of this academy and this movement, and that transformation that they can endure, that they can go through. Okay, I'm gonna keep going here, but that is what it means to be transformational, is understanding, like, you have that framework, you have that approach of wanting to understand the other person. Imagine we are having a conversation, or somebody else is having a conversation with you about something totally different. Let's take the gym, right? And you're wanting to better yourself on a health and wellness level. And somebody actually has a conversation with you, and they are wanting to learn about, like, what is it that you're feeling when you think about going to the gym? What is the main problems and challenges that you experience when it comes to, maybe losing weight or maybe adding muscle or maybe just getting healthy as a whole. They're actually taking the time to understand what it is that you're going through in your head, in your heart. And they're asking you these purposeful questions that really gets like, like based on the questions that they're asking, man, this person like really seems like they want to better understand like my situation and what I'm going through and what's important to me and what I value, what I'm looking for. It completely changes the dynamic of the conversation. And you're no longer just trying to figure out what to say next or, trying to say the thing that you think that they want to hear because you think it's going to, help them make a decision faster or in the direction that you want to go. You're actually asking questions because you're present in the conversation with them and you're basing your questions on the problem that they may be having that that you can solve, and also the data that they're giving you. Every piece of conversation that I have with somebody, I am present now, whereas before I was like, all right, this is what I can say. This is what I want them, like, this is where I want the conversation to go. I'm basing it off of being present and being very intentional because of what they're telling me. I can get like every little thing that they share with me, I'm gathering data, I'm gathering information, and I can base what I maybe say next based on what they just shared with me. It's like, oh, wow, you just gave me a little bit more information. You just gave me a little bit more information, and I can tie my questions to the problem. And we'll give some examples here. But this is transformational because you are basically creating value and asking questions that allow you to better understand what is important to them. Transactional, there's no value exchange, meaning you don't ask questions that better understand them. You're not interested in them. You're not looking to understand where they're coming from. That is transactional. There's no value exchange or very, very little value exchange, which means if there's no value exchange, there's no opportunity to build trust. There's no ability for you or opportunity for you to create any sort of value or relationship. Whereas transformational, because you're asking these very intentional questions, you're very present with them because you're looking at what they're saying and not like of what you could say next because it sounds good. The transformational approach allows you to build trust. It allows you to build influence and understand their problems and value. And a conversation that Eric and I actually had this week on our check-in call, I gave the example of like, I was at the doctor's the other day and the doctor was asking me very intentional, purpose, like based conversation, like questions, because she had an idea of like she knows, my doctor that I saw, she knows the problem that she solves. And the only reason why I would possibly having a conversation with her or in that room or whatever is because I potentially have that problem as well. And I was given a funny example of like, look, if she's asking me all these questions about my nerve pain in my face or whatever, but I'm telling her no, like my big toe hurts, like she's going to be like, that's interesting. That's weird that you're here in the first place. But if you're showing signs that your toe hurts, but I'm a neurologist and I help with nerve pain in your face, like there is a disconnect. She can no longer help me solve my problem because now I'm talking about how I broke my big toe or whatever, right? So that was just like a quick example. The doctors have it's not supposed to be this interrogation, it's a conversation, because what she was doing in the doctor's office is she was relating. She was asking questions, but she was also trying to understand, like, does it hurt right here? Like, how does it make you feel when you go, when this happens? Like, she's asking questions like that. She was like, I've had patients that, have experienced, so she's being open and transparent and maybe a little bit vulnerable. And she was like, she's obviously never experienced this herself, but she's had other patients that have gone through this as well. So she's acknowledging, sharing and relating and so on and so forth. So I hope I'm giving you guys somewhat of an idea. The doctor is being very intentional about their questions and they're very oriented around what is the problem. She was trying to rule out what was not and what is based on the purposeful questions that she was asking. But she was very caring. She was like, what happens? What's your response when this happens? When you've done this in the past, how does that make you feel? Like she was very intentional about her approach. Okay. So transformational allows you to build that trust, that influence, and understand their problems and what they value, what's important to them. Okay. And again, that purposeful question that you're asking, like I want you to drill this in your head. The purposeful questions are the questions that you want to ask in the conversation. And all a purposeful question is a question that's tied to a problem that you know that you can solve. Okay. All you are doing is leading a conversation in a direction that you can help solve a problem. That's it. All you're doing is you're leading a conversation in a direction that you know that you can help solve their problem. That is it. And you lead a conversation based on the questions that you ask. You lead a conversation based on the questions that you ask. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not in your conversations, it's not always going to be super obvious of what to like ask next based on what they tell you, because sometimes I'm sure you guys have experienced, you're in conversations and maybe they're not giving you the information that you can, it's not even like the information that I want or the information that I need, it's they're maybe just not sharing or opening up enough with you where you can actually ask the next purposeful question that's tied to the problem, or move it in the direction, lead the conversation in a direction where you could actually help them. There's no opportunity for you to potentially share your solution or what you do because they haven't given you enough information yet. And that should tell you that you haven't built enough trust with them. How do you build trust? You have a value exchange. You dig into different maybe potential problems or challenges that they have going on in their life, and the only way to do that is the problem that you solve. Type in the chat. I'm gonna give you guys 60 seconds. Type in the chat the problem that you solve. What, just the problem, sorry. Type in the chat the problem that people are probably experiencing that you're having conversations with. Not what everyone's telling you, but what you know the problem is. Type it in the chat. Give you a minute. And I'll share mine with you in just a second. Okay. Okay. So if you don't know your problem, that is step one. That wasn't even in the actions leaving this call, but that should be number one thing that you get clarity on leaving this call. Okay. Alex said her main problem that people would have is a lack of education, not having a plan for money. Okay. We'll just keep that for now. So, my problem I have, and you eventually want to get to this point where you have a business I help statement and you have a product, in our case, product service I help statement. And in your I help statements, as we talked about, you have the person that you are speaking to, the problem, okay, the solution, and you also have the actual transformation in the I help statement. And something that I've put together just to give myself an idea of like how to lead these conversations is I've put together my I help statement. And so my problem when it comes to the business is I help women who feel dissatisfied at their job. And I know I shared it last night on our Friday night call. Caitlin was like, I resonate with that. A lot of people do. That's why we work together. A lot of us feel that way too. And feel free to steal it. Like, it's okay. Make it your own when it comes to the solution based on your values. Make it your own when it comes to your transformation and the experience that you want to have or that you've had so far that you want to take people through and the person that you talk to. Okay. But that's the problem. So when I go into conversations, I already know the problem. People are dissatisfied at their jobs. They don't like, they're not satisfied being there. There is a cap, and then you start to describe the problem and all the things that maybe they think about and they feel, which should come natural to you because maybe you're experiencing it right now. Write it down, like get super clear on it, because it's only going to help you in these conversations. Selling in a transformational way is a skill. We can continue down the path of being transactional and not getting anywhere, not actually building relationships, not actually bringing value to the table, not actually having customer loyalty, like people that actually want to work with you because it's who you are, because you took the time to understand them and what's important to their life and actually have a friendship built, not just on, oh, we got started, now we're business partners, now you're buying my service. No, like I want to work with people where I'm actually friends in real life with you. And so you have to identify the problem that you solve. What is that problem? So I know Alex, you just shared a couple things. I appreciate you. My business related problem, and that's around the business, is people are dissatisfied at their jobs. Okay. And then my product based problem is I help women who feel limited with only one source of income, with only one income stream. A lot of people can relate to that, especially right now in this world. I can't even imagine at this point in my life having only one stream of income. Would not be able to work. I would be struggling. And I know what that feels like yesterday. I can bring myself back there like it was yesterday. So vivid before I got started and I was making $1,300 a month trying to just make it on, like, honestly, I was just like doggy paddling my way, trying to get above water. I was drowning in my own debt. Like I know where I was at. So when I'm in conversations now and I know very descriptive, very like I'm very connected to the problem. When I'm in conversations, I naturally know the types of questions to ask because it's all based on the problem. Can y'all help me out real quick? Can y'all type a 3? Type something in the chat. Is this starting to make a little bit more sense? Are we starting to feel a little bit more clear, a little bit more confident on what this whole thing is all about, what we're actually doing here? Let me know. Otherwise, I don't know. How are we feeling? Where are we at? Okay. All right. I appreciate you guys. Okay. So we're going to bring up a conversation in just a second, but I want to continue on here. So in your conversations, I just said this, but it's not going to always be obvious of what to say or what to ask next based on what they give you. And again, going back to that, you have to look at that as, man, I haven't built enough trust yet, or I haven't, maybe been a little bit more vulnerable. Like, look, how do you get somebody to open up that you don't really know, or whatever? You have to maybe open up a little bit first. Okay. And I'm not saying share your whole life story, but you can be a little bit vulnerable with maybe the things that you've experienced or that you're going through right now related to the problem, right? What it feels like to, feel dissatisfied at your job, what it feels like to be limited with only one income stream. Be vulnerable about it. Talk about it. How has that affected you? Bob talks about, not only just the problem, but what are the impacts of that problem? Remember, we talked about that like several weeks ago. But what is the impact of being dissatisfied at your job, right? What is the impact of, feeling limited with only one income stream? You can't do much. You literally pay bills and expenses and you hope that you have enough money left over at the end of the month to have a little extra fun, to go out and get some food, like, hopefully pay for your next investment, or pay yourself. Like, what are the things that people are thinking about, right? So you look at deeper the effects and the impacts of the original problem, and you base your conversations around that based on whatever they tell you. Okay. Most people, I'm gonna tell you right now, they have the same problem. Like, you talked to people a year ago, some of you guys, you talked to people 2 years ago, they have the same problem today that they had 2 years ago. I guarantee it. People still have one income stream. People still dissatisfied at their job. People still don't have money working for them. People still don't have a skill set that they're learning. Okay. People still have a poor mindset. They still have the same problem. And follow-ups are fantastic because the conversation is like you obviously wouldn't ask it like this based on what they give you, but like, look, like, what's changed over the last 6 months? What's changed, since we talked a year ago? What have you tried doing differently outside of your job to create another stream of income? What have you done? What have you tried? What have you, gone out and tested? I don't know, like, whatever. I'm just putting out words here, to help you create another stream of income. What does it feel like, when you're not at work? Like, what do you like to do outside of your job? If you could have an ideal career, what does that look like? Like, if time or money wasn't an issue, what would you be doing? Like, these are all questions, purposeful based questions that are oriented around the problem. Okay. So I'm just giving you guys some examples here. And that's why I can't really tell you, like, here's the list of questions to ask because it's going to be different. I don't want you guys to think about, let me just flip through the files here. Okay, got this question. This sounds good to say. This is a skill set, and you're not going to learn it overnight, but you could learn and get better and better and better. And I think Mike said it on the Wednesday leadership call this past week, which I'm going to give you guys a quick example. This is going to be a little longer call, no more than our 40-minute call, 30-minute call, and I hope that you guys can just appreciate what, like, the value that we're getting on this call real quick, because I really want us to understand. But Mike said something on the call on Wednesday. He was like, there are, like, the biggest scams in the world right now is people not having money to work for them and people not believing in themselves that they can actually do something. I have bought into that lie for so freaking long that I cannot do something, that I'm not good enough, that I don't believe in myself. And it's a piece of shit. Like, it is a lie. The devil's a liar. It does not, like, that is not the narrative of my, like, that I want to have for my life. And I started to really understand this at a deeper level, that I actually can do the things that I set out to do in my life. Like, I actually can get good at things. I used to think for the longest time, like, I'm not ever going to, get good at trading. Like, that's just not something I'm going to get good at because it's too hard. The story in my head that I make up, or I'm not ever actually going to recruit somebody again. Like, I told myself that story for a period of time. And I bought into the lie, and I started to, like, understand and recognize you have to take the personal attachment off of yourself. And that's what I was doing. Everything that I was doing was based around Abby. Like, it had my name on it. And because it had my name on it, there was an ego attached. There was a personal attachment. There was a bias. And so if you look at somebody else, like anybody on this call, you could be like, Alex can do it because, she's Alex. Or, like, we look at other people and say that they can do it, but we don't look at ourselves and say that we can do it. I had to remove the personal attachment. I had to, like, literally like dump it on the table and be like, no ego. I just have to follow my plan. I told my cousin this the other day when it comes to my trading. I was like, I had to get out of my own way, essentially, because I no longer look at my wins or my losses in trading as mine. I don't take, like, those are not mine. I look at it as I'm following my plan. So the reason why I say that is because I don't want to get too high. I don't want to get too low where I take that on as an identity for myself. And that becomes the narrative and the belief that I have around this skill set. Same thing with the skill of selling. I can't take on the identity of I can't recruit, or I can't have successful conversation, or I can't ask purposeful questions, or I don't know where to go next with this. I can't take on that identity because it's self-defeating, it's discouraging, it's just gonna harden my heart, it's gonna make me bitter, and it's gonna make me believe that I can't actually do this. You on this call actually can do this, but we have such a personal attachment in the way that it is self-sabotaging, to be quite frank with you. And it's costing us the opportunity to actually develop ourselves in these areas. And so on that leadership call where Mike said that, out of everything that he said, I needed to hear that reminder. And I just shared with some of you guys the other day, my mom was in town, and this is the last story I'll share, but my mom was in town and we were watching a TV show. Alex and I don't really we don't watch TV shows at all. And it's not anything against TV shows or people that watch TV shows. I just don't watch them. And because I know what happens when I do. I get sucked into them and I can't stop. I remember I watched Jane the Virgin, and I watched it in like a month, all 100 episodes or whatever it was. And then I was like, I need to hurry up and get this shit done because it's ruining my life right now. And it's like this all or nothing mentality. So I just don't watch TV shows because I know what it does to me. But I was like, I have to watch the last episode of Survivor because I need to know who won. And then we're done. I'm cutting you off. It was 2 hours. And we were watching it on Wednesday this week. And Mike posts like last minute that he was doing the leadership call. And I had all the urge in the world to just keep watching Survivor and not turn on the leadership. We were about halfway through and it was starting to get really good. And I was like, Alex, we need to pause it and jump on this call. And I'm so glad that I did, because I was like, I needed to hear this reminder. I needed to be on there. But how many times do we make the excuse and we show up to things that are only going to give us the comfort and the pleasure, the temporary comfort and pleasure and convenience in that moment, but we're neglecting to do things that are actually going to make us better because we don't believe that, like, why even bother? We don't believe that we can actually do the things that will help us get to our goals because we are still personally attached to it. All right, that was what I wanted to share with you real quick. I hope somebody needed to hear that. Okay, let's keep it moving. This is a skill of selling. Okay, this is a skill. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not something that poof, I'm just gonna know it. Like, it's going to take some time, just like trading, just like any other skill set that you learn. It's going to take time, but remove your personal attachment from the rejection, from the results, from the outcome, okay, from the losses, from the wins, even, okay. You can use that to, like, use the actions that you take as a way to stack your wins, okay. Winning in my head, and this is what I've learned from Nancy and Alex Hormozy and Mike Navarrete and Bob Heilig, is winning is success is making progress and growth. Winning is the actions and behaviors tied to the goal itself. It's the actions and behaviors. Why? Because those are things that I can actually control. So that's why we say, when we say drop a win, you could say, okay, I made X amount percent on my trading account, blah, blah, blah. But a better win that's actually controllable, that you don't have an identity, like you don't have a negative identity towards, because what happens if next week you lose, minus 2%, and this week you got, +2? Like, everything's like up and down. I have wins that I can control, which is action oriented, which is behavior driven. So what are those actions? I know I can get better at the skill of selling, not because of an outcome that I get here and there, but because of the actions that I can take every single day. That's how I'm going to get better. And there's no personal attachment about it because I can follow my plan. If people follow the plan, they can get better. They can get better. That's why I say, is like, taking trades is just like going to the gym. You can't get better if you don't actually get to the gym or start your workout. You can't actually know what to do or what not to do if you don't take the trade. You can't actually get better at the skill of selling if you don't actually start the conversations, okay? Selling is not, here's my link, here's this incentive, getting somebody started. No, that is all transactional when you have no value exchange. And that's called pitching. We're not here to pitch people. We are here to actually sell, which means to understand the other person. People can buy in a transactional way, but what happens is you don't create any customer loyalty. There is no relationship. There is no value exchange that's happening. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to continue to build my business that way. I don't want to continue to have these relationships with people, but there's no foundation built off of it. Really selling is understanding the other person and making it known to them that you understand what's important to them. That's what it means to really sell. So your identity and image that you had around selling coming into this call, I hope and pray that it changes leaving this call. Kind of like how you go into church and you're like, I hope you came in here one way, but I guarantee you're going to leave a different way. I feel that way every single time I leave church on Sunday. Leaving this call, I hope that you look at selling in a different way. And I want you to be so confident. Maybe it doesn't happen right away today, but over the next several weeks that we're together, I want you to be so confident that when someone comments on your post, because creating content, putting content out there, the only reason we do that is to create engagement so we can start conversations. We make problem-based, goal-oriented content. Okay, so when somebody comments on your post, when you have a conversation with somebody, you know how to lead and selling, understanding that person, asking purposeful questions based around the problem that you can solve. You know how to lead that conversation. You know how to sell in that conversation. Okay. The only reason why we may not be confident right now is because we just don't understand what it means to sell. And you probably just haven't developed the skill enough yet too, but we don't understand what it means to sell. And you're probably just not clear on the problem that you actually solve. So leaving this call, I want you guys to better understand what it means to actually sell, which is understanding the other person. And I want you guys to get really clear on the problem that you can help with. Okay. So to close out this call, can one of you, whoever has a conversation, just unmute yourself. And I'll make you like co-host or whatever. If you want to either send the screenshot in the chat real quick. Yeah, let's just do that. Just send your screenshot, if you have one, in the chat. And then if one of you guys can just unmute yourself, doesn't matter who, and just start kind of sharing with us the dialogue of this conversation, what's happened, and we can just kind of go through and review it. Usually we would do this in the beginning, um, but we're not today. We're gonna do it at the end. But usually we'll do it in the beginning just to kind of kick things off. I'm reading your thing out. All right, if you guys are able to pull up the chat so you can see what Alex just text, what oh my gosh, what she just texted. Um, Al, can you walk us through kind of just like your perspective on this so far?
Yeah, so let me bring it up. Sorry. So I don't know what I posted. The one thing I don't like about Facebook is like once your story goes away, it doesn't show like what they're replying to, but basically it must have been something crypto. Um, and he was basically asking like crypto strategy stuff like that. And my whole point was, having the question in mind, like not just like, oh, well, let me share some info with you. Not just jumping into that first, but like wanting to know what he's learning, wanting to learn more about specifically. So I guess the one thing, because he asked like, what is your strategy? And I've said, well, I have a strategy personally for me that fits my schedule and risk tolerance stuff like that. And then I asked him like, what are you looking to specifically learn about? Um, and then just kind of seeing where he's at. And he just messaged back, my portfolio BTC and altcoins haven't been focused on that for some time. So he didn't really give much. So I'm assuming it's just building more trust and just kind of seeing or maybe digging a little bit more like, well, why did you decide to invest in Bitcoin? That was like one of the questions I was thinking of asking next.
Sorry, I had my self muted. No, that's good. I'm just reviewing just the conversation, the dialogue, and everything. And I think the way that you just led the conversation and that you took it, asking that question, what are you looking to learn about specifically? That's a great starting question. Like, I'm sure that there's probably just the better question that you could have asked, but like, this is a great starting point because what you're doing is you're not asking yes or no questions, and you're not worse. What Bob talks about a lot is what people do is as soon as people want information or ask you questions about what you do, the worst thing that people do is they just try to give information to them right away. Oh yeah, here's what I do. Yeah, let me send you a video,
Mm-hmm.
some information. Like he's like, you go straight to the solution and you don't even understand their problem. And so he has like these phases in the conversation. And so I think what you're doing here with asking just, hey, like, what are you even interested in? What are you looking to learn about more specifically? Another question you could ask is, what have you even tried in the past that you've liked or that has helped? So I think that's a great starting point. Have you messaged him back yet from what he said?
Not yet, no. Um, I was gonna say, yeah, right now is probably one of the best times to look into crypto since everything's low. Um, I was gonna lead with what interests you in starting your portfolio to begin with.
There you go. I was looking for you to say something like that. So yeah, I think because he said I got my portfolio of bitcoins and altcoins, but I haven't been focusing on that for some time. So he has a portfolio. He hasn't been really paying attention to it for X amount of time or whatever. So that would be number one. I would look at that. Like, okay, I would be wondering, why hasn't he like taken any time to look at it? Does he not know what to do? Does he not have a mentor? What's something come up in his personal life? Did he lose interest? Why is he interested now? So I think asking that question, what you just said, however you said it, would be powerful. And the other thing too is going back to the theme of this call is what is the problem that you solve? Because this is a product service based question or like conversation. He's not like, you wouldn't be leading with the business side, right? You'd be leading with the problem around the product and the service that solves his problem. So like, what is the problem that would be here that you could solve on the product level?
It could be potentially just lack of education, not knowing, well, I guess it goes down to education because if maybe most people don't know when to buy in as well and what to buy in as well. So I think education on this one.
Okay. Whatever the problem is for the product side, I would keep it very consistent. You can have the main problem, and then within that problem, it'll have different impacts and effects. So you'll test it out as you do this more. But I think you have a great starting point. You have a great foundation. The question that you asked, you're in the right mindset. You're in the transformational mindset of trying to better understand where are you coming from? What's important to you? So helpful. How do you feel now from before?
Sorry, I was trying to mute and it wouldn't appear. Um, it's different because I know before it'd be like, oh, here's some information, like you said before, like just here you go. And there's no like appreciation for it. That's what I usually would get or do. And then in turn, like they would never view it. So it's like, uh, and versus this time, obviously we spoke before. I spoke to him before and like we conversate back and forth. But this is the first time like mentioning crypto, and having that conversation. So I think obviously by keep posting about it and having that in my stories does help as far as like I'm a good resource kind of thing. Um, so yeah, it's different because I'm actually kind of curious, like, oh, why are you interested in crypto? Rather than just like, here's some information, check it out, and if you like it, get back to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's different.
It is different, and I hope that it's empowering for all of you guys because now you don't have to feel like you, not that you have the upper hand or like you're in like this authority position, but now you're coming from like an equal place of I'm just wanting to understand where you're coming from because I don't even know if you have a problem that I can solve because until you share with me that you do, I can offer a solution. So thank you for sharing your conversation. Marin, did you have any conversation that you wanted to share or any comments so far since you said you had something?
I do. I will drop it in this chat here. It is from, let's see, a conversation from a while ago.
Chat.
Oh, wait, I sent it to Mason. Oops, sorry. I'll resend it. I hate when Zoom does that. Okay.
All right, let's see. Um, okay, let's see here. So you want to walk us through real quick, and this is the last conversation we'll do. But you want to walk us through like your perspective and what kind of was going on here that you recall?
Yeah, I was just trying to like pretty much get to know her first and why she started being a vet tech.
Okay. Um, Sorry, I'm just reading. It's very important. Yeah. Nice. All right, before. Oh, the second part is the beginning. Okay. I never like that. Was your choice? What you found? As if for regards to being on for animals. Right, assistant. Okay, so before I share anything, do you know what your problem that you like the main problem is that you solve for people? What is that problem?
Well, I want like women or anybody who feel like stuck at a job or feel like that's the only thing that they can do, kind of see more opportunities in the world to like expand themselves.
Okay. So people that feel stuck in a job, like that's the specific problem, right? Shh. Being crazy girl. Okay, so people that kind of feel stuck in their job and ultimately want to, what did you say? Explore the world or expand the world, expand their world.
Like expand themselves as a person.
Okay. So that would be more so a solution that you could offer or the transformation that they could have. Okay. But the main problem is they feel stuck at their job. Okay. Based on the conversation and everything, I don't know exactly how you may have started the conversation. It's all good either way. But putting yourself in the mind frame of that is the problem that I saw. So this girl may potentially feel like she's stuck at her job. So I would be thinking about, what are some questions that I could potentially ask that would allude to her telling me I feel stuck in my job. And I think you're on the right track. You're not asking a lot of yes or no questions. It's more open-ended, which is good. From what you were reading in the conversation, did it feel like she was kind of happy or content with what she does at work?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe, and this is just maybe right now, maybe she might not be somebody that you could help in this moment. And that's the other thing too. And I appreciate you sharing this conversation because sometimes we can be in these conversations and it's like, man, they work a job, they must be stuck. And like, like we have that in our head. And so we continue to pursue the conversation, but they're like, I love what I do. Like I actually enjoy this or whatever. So maybe in that specific area, you can't help them right now. But if you develop a relationship and maybe you're just, transparent and vulnerable with like, I love something maybe that you could say in there too is like, I really enjoy working with animals, being a vet and all that stuff or whatever in that environment. But sometimes I notice, and then you just bring up some of the problems that you have and see if like you're just basically testing the waters. Does she touch on that? It's like bait a little bit, not in like a negative way, but just like, does that resonate with her is what I'm trying to get at. And if it doesn't, you'll know because she won't even touch on it at all. She'll be like, oh girl, like I totally like get that. Like XYZ, I don't know the problems that you guys experience at work, but like, maybe she says something and it's like, boom, there we go. There's something I can like, there's a piece of information I can maybe ask a question about again. And then you just kind of go from there. But based on this, doesn't really seem like she's like stuck or feels some type of way about her work. She actually enjoys it. So I would just move on. Maybe you have a follower or two and you watch her story, she watch your story. She gets to see like who you are as a person. And maybe down the road, because you're sharing problem-based content around the work that you do, she like resonates with that. Maybe it's in 6 months. And it's like, man, girl, you made a post about how you work and it's just so draining sometimes. And like some of the things that I experience at work, the surgeries or whatever, like it just really gets to me. Like I can definitely relate to that. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but you get my point. Is this helpful? Do you have any other like questions or concerns about it?
No, that's helpful because I was kind of like in the conversation with her and I was like, I feel like she loves her job, so there's not really much I can do. And that's kind of how like the conversation just stopped. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know if there's much more I can say to her anyways, but yeah, this helped.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're going to have those, I would just say the biggest thing that you can maybe work on in your conversations is sharing a little bit more, like always just like the focus, the framework is what's the problem? I know the problem that I saw. And so bringing up things in the conversation that they could potentially relate to of different effects of the main problem that you experience throughout your day in working and bringing those up in the conversation. And all you're doing is just seeing, ooh, does that resonate with them? Do they relate to that at all? Can they connect with that? And you'll know if they do or not based on their response. And you just keep it going. And if you guys don't know what to maybe say in something, like I want to kind of create this, but like send your conversation in the chat. Send it in our chat. Be like, hey, I'm having this conversation, and anybody in here can provide feedback. And if it's not good feedback, we'll tell you. And it's okay because you'll learn. But we all should get in the habit of like being able to identify these things because it's only going to help you get better. So I appreciate you guys for being on here, being so active and engaging. And I hope this call was helpful. I hope it gave you some sort of perspective that can help you in your conversations, and you don't look at selling as this negative thing, because that's not what we do. We actually are here to understand people. And I hope that was a little bit more clear after this call. We're going to get into this a little bit more, just step by step over the last few weeks of our 12 weeks together, this type of stuff. If you guys are cool with that, this just based on the conversations I've had with you guys, this feels like the number one thing we need to be talking about. So with that being said, I'm going to post a recording if you guys want to go back to it. I love you guys. I appreciate you. Have an incredible weekend. And if you're in AZ, I'll see you tonight at the workshop. So peace out, y'all. Later.